Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 52 based on novel. So let's start. The kids these days are getting more and more insolent. Kid, I don't care where you come from. Once you come to a place like this, no matter who you are, if you lose your life, no one would know who did it. Atop the cliff wall, the older brother Yang Zhon looked towards Lin Dong, who had floated up into the air and could not help but mock with a sneer. Brat, if you're smart, you should hurry up and scram. If you anger me, the second master of the Yang family, you will be begging for your death, added Yong Wei with a malevolent smile. Indifference filled Lin Dong's eyes as he looked towards the two sneering men. Ignoring their words, the scarlet cauldron in his palm suddenly started give off an intense scarlet luster. In the next instant, the cauldron grew dramatically in size, transforming into a gigantic cauldron that was dozens of feet large. This cauldron was naturally the burning sky cauldron that Lin Dong had obtained from old man Fen Tian. It was a genuine pure yuan treasure and Lin Dong had personally witnessed its formidable power back then. Even the black fog life form had been destroyed by it. Of course, the current Lin Dong was unable to bring out the terrifying might of the cauldron that old man Fen Tian had displayed. Therefore, the cauldron's size was far from being able to reach the size it had back then. Nonetheless, when the scarlet cauldron expanded in size, astonishing hot fluctuations still erupted unceasingly from within. In an instant, the temperature of the area increased substantially. With a wave of his sleeve, boundless yuan power immediately poured into the burning sky cauldron. Flames seemed to rise from within it as the cauldron gave off increasingly irritable fluctuations. When old man Fen Tian passed the burning sky cauldron to Lin Dong, he had erased all his brands within it. Hence, Lin Dong was able to control it with ease. Although he was not able to reach old man Fen Tian's level of mastery, the ability he displayed could not be considered unproficient. Startled expressions appeared on the Yang brothers' faces due to the fluctuations radiating out from the burning sky cauldron. Soon after, thick greed gushed out from their eyes. It's a pure yuan treasure. The brothers licked their lips. The fire within their eyes was now much more intense compared to before when they were looking at Ling Qingshu. They had been in unique devil region for many years and their eyes were naturally extraordinary. Therefore, with one look, they could tell that the burning sky cauldron within Lin Dong's hand was definitely no ordinary treasure. Such a lucky brat. He actually got his hands on such a precious treasure. No wonder he dares to act so rampant in front of us. However, since you've revealed your treasure, there's no need for you to leave now, said Yang Zhon with a grin. Yong Wei released a strange laugh, as exceptionally boundless yuan power slowly started to swell and sweep out from his body. Ill intent filled his eyes as he stared at Lin Dong. Want to steal my treasure? Let's see whether you guys have the ability to do so. It was clear that Lin Dong had spotted the sudden rise in greed within their eyes. With a laugh, Lin Dong's eyes turned all the more cold and chilling. Brat, let's see if your mouth will still be so sharp later on, sneered Yang Zhon. The brothers shot a look at each other, before turning into black shadows as they shot forward simultaneously. Two fists rumbled through the air, causing it to explode as two violent gales enveloped Lin Dong. The young brothers had no intention of sounding out Lin Dong. In addition, they did not underestimate him just because he was at the 8 yuan nirvana stage. The two had joined forces and attacked together. After mixing around in unique devil region for all these years, they have seen too many cases of people underestimating their opponents which resulted in them getting blindsided. Such opponents were the toughest to deal with, therefore, after Lin Dong saw this scene, an additional feeling of seriousness appeared within his eyes. Although this duo was loathsome, their attitude towards battle forced him to become even more wary. Bang! The green dragon wings on Lin Dong's back extended. With a sudden jolt, his figure rapidly retreated, while his hand started to form a seal. A scarlet column of fire spurted out of the burning sky cauldron, and smashed head-on against the fist gale created by the brothers. Such a powerful attack! When they saw that Lin Dong was actually able to block their attack with such ease by using the burning sky cauldron and his 8 yuan nirvana stage strength, a feeling of astonishment flashed within their eyes. However, what came after that flash of astonishment was an even thicker feeling of greed. "Let's go!" With a shout, the two brothers instantly shot forwards. In a flash, they appeared on Lindong's left and right. A vicious glint filled their eyes as they sent their fists rumbling forth. Soul-breaking palm. Boundless and sinisterly cold yuan power crazily gathered in their palms, bringing along an extremely fierce and chilling force, as they instantly enveloped every vital point on Lindong's body. Green light erupted from within Lindong's body as green dragon scales rapidly appeared. Lindong's arms and legs wiggled and expanded. In the next instant, with a grasp of his dragon fist, the yuan power within his body roared and exploded out without restraint. Bang! Without any indication of backing off, the malevolent and cold green dragon fist smashed head-on against the swift and fierce palm force from the two brothers. At the instant of impact, violent winds swept outwards as Lindong explosively retreated a dozen steps. The green light on his body flickered, completely blocking the force that was invading his body. Delightful! After forcefully receiving the brothers' palms, Lindong could not help but raise his head towards the sky, as he laughed heartily. After having advanced to the 8 yuan nirvana stage, the strength of his physical body was growing more and more powerful. With his tough physical body tempered by the green heaven materialized dragon skill, he was now able to fight evenly with opponents at the half-step to profound life stage. This brat has such a formidable physical body. After this exchange, there was slight change of emotions within the brothers' eyes. It was obvious that they had become aware of Lindong's formidable physical body. "Don't waste time, finish him off quickly." Yang Zhon and Yang Wei's gazes met. Soon after, cold glints gushed in their eyes. When taking action within the deeper areas of unique devil region, one has to end the fight as quickly as possible. If not, the battle will attract the attention of powerful demons. When these creatures show up, it would become rather troublesome. Bang! Boundless dark grey yuan power simultaneously swelled and erupted from the duo's bodies. Indistinctly, it transformed into a gigantic dark grey shadow behind them. After its appearance, an astonishing fluctuation was faintly emitted. "Heh, brat. After entering the ancient treasury back then, us brothers managed to obtain a few ancient martial arts. You are truly fortunate to be able to experience it. Even if you die, it won't be a waste." As the grey shade behind them started to condense and solidify, an extremely boundless energy fluctuation started radiating faintly from it. Sensing this fluctuation, Lindong's pupils faintly contracted. At this very moment, he could feel a faint sensation of stabbing pain originating from his dragon scale-covered body. Obviously, the martial art that the young brothers had unleashed was definitely extraordinary. Never would I have thought that these two fellows actually possessed such a formidable martial art. I wonder where did they obtain it from? Lindong's eyes sparkled as this thought continued to circulate within his mind. The majestic grey shade finally solidified behind the young brothers. In the next moment, a low shout suddenly rang out from their mouths, "Martial Emperor Law, Destruction Fist!" As the shout rang out, an ancient fist suddenly rumbled out from the majestic grey shade. The fist that appeared was covered all over by ancient-looking patterns. As the fist rumbled forward, a strange and peculiar fluctuation started to faintly radiate from it. The force generated by the fist directly tore apart space, locking all of Lindong's possible escape routes. Its power and momentum was extremely terrifying and dreadful. Lindong's expression was grim as he watched the ancient fist that had penetrated through space and was heading towards him. Soon after, majestic green light suddenly screamed out from his body, transforming into a gigantic green dragon. With a fling of its green dragon tail, it viciously smashed against the ancient fist. Bang! Wild yuan power swept everywhere in a berserk fashion as Lindong instantly retreated explosively. His body violently smashed against the mountain cliff, as a gigantic fissure started to spread from the point of impact. Looking extremely miserable as he stabilized his body, Lindong suddenly raised his head. Eyes burning with fire, he stared at the young brothers and grinned, "Good, I'll help the both of you keep this martial emperor law." As he said those words, Lindong changed his hand seals, causing the burning sky cauldron floating in midair to suddenly start rotating. Soon after, a flaming light array instantly spewed out, enveloping the young brothers within. At the same time, a terrifying fluctuation started to spread from the light array. Sensing this fluctuation, a dreadful expression rushed forth on their faces. This array technique was the burning sky array of the burning sky cauldron. The flaming light descended from the air, directly engulfing and enveloping the young brothers within it. The heat from the rising flames was sufficient to completely melt the gigantic rocks on the mountain cliff. The burning sky array was one of the signature moves of the burning sky cauldron. If Lindong was stronger, he would be able to first suck the two of them into the burning sky cauldron, and then trap them within the burning sky array. Unlike the current situation, where he had only trapped them in the burning sky array. At that time, he would unleash the full strength of the array, and even a profound life stage expert would be reduced to ashes. Of course, the current Lindong did not have strength to achieve such a feat. Furthermore, he had just gotten his hands on the burning sky cauldron, and he did not have a clear understanding of its capabilities. Even so, the weaker version of the burning sky array that he had summoned was more than what the young brothers had bargained for. As the flaming light array enveloped the brothers, streams of scarlet fire whizzed around like blazing pythons, and formed a fiery prison. Fluctuations appeared on the young brothers' faces as they stared at the flaming light array. The blazing hot fluctuations that filled the air caused them to feel some fear and trepidation within their hearts. Attack together and break this array. However, the young brothers were veterans. They looked at each other, and fiercely nodded their heads, before boundless yuan power started screaming out of them. Two extremely swift and fierce palm strikes mercilessly slammed onto the same spot on the flaming light array. Bang! A deep sound rang out from the point of impact. However, their attacks did not achieve their desired result. Under their combined attacks, the flaming array was still as secure as a fortress. What a powerful array! Upon seeing their attacks fail, their expressions changed once again, as heart-palpitating fear finally flashed in their eyes and a sense of unease arose in their hearts. Lindong floated in the air as he looked down upon the duo trapped in the array. Suddenly, a sinister chilling glint bursted out of his eyes. Next, it's time for the two of you to taste the might of the burning sky array. As those words faded, Lindong's hand seal suddenly transformed. Instantly, a sky full of flames surged within the burning sky array. Wave after wave of scorching and berserk fluctuations erupted and frantically engulfed them. The blazing fluctuations radiated within the burning sky array. At this instant, the young brothers' faces suddenly flushed red, as the heart-palpitating fear within their eyes intensified. This was because they had discovered that the blazing fluctuations were unexpectedly invading and corroding their bodies. It was as if it wanted to ignite and burn the yuan power within their bodies. What a strange array! Horror flashed within their eyes. This was obviously the first time that they had seen such a formidable array. These fluctuations were actually able to influence the yuan power in their bodies. Beads of sweat began to form and flow from their foreheads, while they did their utmost to circulate their yuan power in an attempt to resist the corrosion of the berserk and blazing fluctuations. At this time, if something were to happen within their bodies, they would die without a doubt. Bang! While they were trying to resist the corrosion from the fluctuations, the flames that blotted the skies condensed in a flash, transforming into two flaming tornadoes. Furiously twisting in the air, wave after wave of astonishingly destructive fluctuations radiated from them. Go! As he watched the flaming tornadoes form, a cold glint flashed within Lindong's eyes. He abruptly extended his finger, as the flaming tornadoes swept towards the young brothers like two giant hissing pythons. The terrifyingly fiery fluctuations became even more wild and berserk. Upon seeing this, the two hurriedly retreated. Boundless yuan power whizzed out from them, as their hand seals started to change. Once again, the dark grey shade appeared behind them. However, just as the shade took form, Lindong coldly snorted. With a clench of his fist, the berserk and fiery fluctuations spread outwards. Before the shade could take shape, it exploded with a bang. Even if the duo wanted to unleash their martial arts, it was obvious that they would face great disturbance while within the burning sky array. Bang! Preventing the brothers from exhibiting their martial art only took an instant. In that same instant, the blazing tornadoes arrived. Under the terrified gazes of the brothers, the tornadoes furiously slammed into their bodies. A deep muffled sound resounded out, as two figures shot out pitifully, before smashing into the surface of the flaming light array. Due to the blazing hot temperature, the two men were roasted once again, till their faces turned bright red. At this time, even their breathing had turned haggard and rough. "Since you guys have entered my array, give up any thoughts of escaping," said Lindong with a faint smile as he looked towards the two who were in a sorrowful state. He was pleasantly surprised by the power of this burning sky array. This burning sky cauldron was undoubtedly a pure Yuan treasure. If Lindong were to engage in a head-on fight with the two brothers, it would definitely be a bitter fight, a fight that would be nowhere near as easy and as relaxed as the current situation. Furthermore, the blazingly hot fluctuations within the burning sky array would endlessly corrode the Yuan power in the people trapped within. In other words, the longer one stayed within the array, the more Yuan power one would use up. If this continued, there would come a time when one's Yuan power would be completely depleted, which would result in one being totally incapable to put up any resistance. Within the burning sky array, the young brothers' faces had already turned extremely ugly, as they finally understood the situation they were in. Due to the disturbance of this array, it was unexpectedly difficult to even display their martial arts. This was equivalent to Lindong removing 50 to 60% of the methods that they had. "Okay, brat, us brothers will admit defeat now. We will no longer interfere. How about we call it quits," said Yang Zhon in a deep voice as he gloomily stared at Lindong. With a skin-deep smile on his face, Lindong stared at Yang Zhon, while ridicule filled his eyes as he replied, "Do I look like an inexperienced brat who has just came out to the world to the two of you? Brat, don't get too conceited. We were only caught unprepared. However, if we were to truly struggle, you will definitely suffer as well," replied Yong Wei in a stern voice. Still smiling, Lindong stared at the brothers. With an indifferent voice, he said, "It's possible for me to release the two of you. However, the condition is that you give the martial emperor law to me. In your dreams." Hearing his words, Yang Wei's face changed as he started cursing and swearing. "We risked our lives to steal it from the ancient treasury. If you want it, we will exchange it for that cauldron of yours." "Looks like you two are still not aware of the situation you are in," sighed Lindong. With a snap of his fingers, the flames within the burning sky array suddenly rose dramatically. "You?" Sensing the violent and explosive increase in heat, the young brothers could feel the Yuan power in their bodies fade away at a more rapid pace. Immediately, their expressions grew much uglier. "All right, I'll give you the martial emperor law. Let us go," shouted Yang Zhon suddenly after clenching his teeth. "Elder brother." Upon hearing his brother's word, Yong Wei was instantly alarmed. Just as he was about to speak, he was stopped by Yang Zhon with a wave of his hand. Eyes flashing, he said, "Our lives are the most important." Shock flashed past Yang Wei's eyes, before he nodded his head. Lindong was all smiles as he watched this scene. An undetectable cold glint flashed within his eyes. Yang Zhon clenched his hand, before a black jade appeared within it. With jerk of his arm, it turned into a black ray of light that shot straight at Lindong. The black jade shot out of the array and appeared before Lindong in a flash. Seeing this, Lindong faintly smiled as he extended his hand to catch it. Bang! When Yang Zhon saw Lindong move, he icily chuckled in his heart. With a change of his hand seals, the black jade instantly exploded, as an extremely thin golden shade shot out. With an indescribable speed akin to lightning, it headed straight for Lindong's throat while carrying a swift and fierce fluctuation. "Yuan spirit? Isn't it a little too weak?" This sudden turn of events caused Lindong's eyebrows to raise. However, there was no trace of panic within his eyes. Instead, a smile appeared from the corners of his mouth. With a thought, a similar golden ray shot out of his body, and heavily impacted against the weak golden light. Bang! A deep sound rang out, as the incoming golden ray was reflected back. Its golden glow swiftly dimmed, and in the end, it transformed into a palm-sized golden shade which looked identical to Yang Zhon. Obviously, this was the Yuan spirit that he had refined. However, this Yuan spirit was especially incorporeal when compared to Lin Dong's. You have actually refined a Yuan spirit. Seeing his sneak attack failing, Yang Zhon's expression abruptly changed. Somewhat shocked, he stared at the golden shade floating before Lin Dong. The Yuan spirit of the former was several times more corporeal than his own. Bastard! Yang Zhon clenched his teeth and cursed, before hurriedly summoning back his Yuan spirit back into his body. Since you've already called it out, why summon it back? Upon seeing this, Lin Dong smiled. His hand reached forward, as black light shot out from his palm. It transformed into a black hole, and appeared before Yang Zhon's Yuan spirit. Devouring power gushed out, and devoured the Yuan spirit in a single breath. When his Yuan spirit was devoured by the black hole, Yang Zhon's face instantly turned deathly pale, before spurting a mouthful of blood. His aura rapidly weakened, while his face was brimmed with shock and terror. Devouring ancestral symbol? A terrified voice that was filled with despair rang out from Yang Zhon's mouth. With his sharp eyes, he was able to identify the source of the black light that had come out of Lin Dong. You have good eyes. With a faint smile, Lin Dong withdrew his devouring ancestral symbol. Soon after, he lowered his head to look at the duo within the burning sky array, before he said with a smile, I shouldn't drag this on any longer. Please accompany each other to hell. As his words faded, the smile on Lin Dong's face suddenly turned ice cold. With a sudden change of his hand seal, the burning sky array frantically started to revolve. In the next instant, berserk and terrifying flames that seemed to have turned into lava erupted within the burning sky array, and devoured the Yang brothers. As the lava-like flames swept out, the miserable shrieks of the Yang brothers abruptly echoed in the area. Unusually berserk and violent flames unfurled in the sky. The heat directly melted the valley wall, creating an enormous hole. Lin Dong's expression was indifferent as he watched the rising flames. The miserable cries within the flames continued for a while, before they finally disappeared completely. The two auras inside also totally vanished after the miserable cries disappeared. The flames continued to burn for quite some time, before gradually beginning to weaken. When the flames were extinguished, the two figures inside had already turned to ashes. Two experts at the half-step to profound life stage were actually directly incinerated into ashes by the burning sky array. It is indeed worthy of being a pure Yuan treasure. Lin Dong involuntarily licked his lips when he saw this scene. This burning sky cauldron was truly extremely powerful. From a certain point of view, it could be said to be even stronger than the heavenly phoenix Sither in Ying Huanhuan's hands. However, it consumes too much energy. Lin Dong clenched his hand. The burning sky array was not maintained for very long, but the Yuan power within his body had already been greatly exhausted. This pure Yuan treasure might be powerful, but it was not something that anyone could use. No wonder Ying Huanhuan would feel so exhausted after using the heavenly phoenix Sither. The flaming light array gradually disappeared at this moment. Finally, it turned into a flaming light, and entered the burning sky cauldron. Following the disappearance of the flaming light, two black Qianquan bags appeared. Lin Dong was clearly paying close attention to the activity within the burning sky array while he activated it earlier. This was because he was extremely interested in the martial emperor lore the duo possessed. Hence, he had placed a little of his focus to protect their Qianquan bags. Otherwise, they would also be turned into ashes within the burning sky array along with the Yang Zhon duo. Lin Dong beckoned with his hand. The two Qianquan bags flew over and landed in his hands. A thought immediately passed through his mind as his mental energy entered. Normally speaking, these Qianquan bags would possess the mental energy brand of their owner. However, the Yang Zhon duo had already turned into ashes along with their Yuan spirits. Hence, their brand had likewise naturally faded. Therefore, Lin Dong's mental energy was not obstructed in any way as it directly entered and began to search profusely. The things within the Yang Zhon duo's Qianquan bags were quite messy. However, it could be considered rather abundant. There were all kinds of martial arts, however, none of them caught Lin Dong's eye. This search continued for a whole 10 minutes. Only then did a greyish-black jade piece appear in Lin Dong's hand. A mysterious ripple was vaguely being emitted from within it. This fluctuation was completely similar to the martial arts that the Yang Zhon duo had unleashed earlier. It is this thing? Lin Dong held this grayish-black jade piece while joy flashed past his eyes. He could sense the tyrannical power of this martial emperor law. Such a martial art had definitely reached the heavenly martial art level. However, the Yang Zhon duo had not completely mastered it. Otherwise, even if Lin Dong had the aid of the burning sky cauldron, it would not be so easy to finish the two of them off. A thought passed through Lin Dong's mind as he held the jade piece. His mental energy swiftly entered it. Lin Dong's mental energy had just entered the jade piece when a buzzing sound was suddenly emitted from his mind. Soon after, everything in front of him turned black. The scenery changed, turning into a vast starry space. This sudden change did not cause Lin Dong to panic. He understood that this should be the mental imprint left within the jade piece. A distortion suddenly appeared in the vast starry space while Lin Dong was quietly focusing his mind. A human figure slowly walked out from the distorted starry space. When the latter approached, Lin Dong realized the figure was clothed in grey clothes, and his figure was as tall and straight as a mountain. His appearance was not handsome, but he gave off a majestic aura. At this moment, his radiance seemed to be even more dazzling than the bright starry space. The person stood under the starry space before stepping forward. A fist danced, while a profound martial art was displayed in a natural manner as his feet easily shifted. At that moment, it appeared as though the entire starry space was trembling because of this. A deep and hoarse voice, that seemed to have originated from the ancient times, resounded heavily within the starry space while the martial arts was being displayed. My entire life can be divided into 3 stages. In the earlier stage, I battled 3,800 times, but I failed to achieve a single victory. In the middle stage, I fought in 5,300 bouts, but I lost 5,000 of them. Lin Dong was evidently extremely astonished when he heard these words. This elder's honesty was rather ferocious. He had actually won only 300 of his over 9,000 battles. This was truly a model example of someone who kept fighting despite continual setbacks. In the final stage, I fought 8,000 battles, and lost 10. However, Lin Dong was once again stunned when he heard the following words. Soon after, he inhaled a breath of cool air. A mere 10 losses in 8,000 fights, wasn't the contrast a little too stark? It must also be said that this person was a true battle fanatic. Such a mindset caused Lin Dong to become speechless upon hearing about it. Lin Dong had also gained some comprehension after being surprised. This elder's previous defeats clearly allowed his experience to accumulate. He had discovered his inadequacy during his fights and continued to polish himself. It was likely that he could already be considered a grandmaster at the final stage. He was likely a pinnacle existence even among those at the top, and there was naturally not many who could defeat him. Of course, what made Lin Dong even more curious was just what kind of absolute powers did this battle fanatic elder end up losing those 10 battles to. While I was alive, others bestowed upon me the title Martial Emperor. I continued to accumulate martial arts and eventually created one of my own. It is called the Martial Emperor Law. In the Great World War, I relied on this martial art to kill 3 generals and heavily injure a king. Although I fell in the end, this was sufficient for me to stand proud in this world. Lin Dong's expression turned completely grave at this moment, and his heart felt slightly shocked. This martial emperor was truly someone who defied the natural order. He was actually able to rely on his own strength to kill 3 generals and seriously injure a king. This ability was likely considered top-notch even during those ancient times. Lin Dong also understood a little about those unknown creatures. The black fog creature, that old ghost Fen Tian had once again suppressed earlier, should belong to the general level. On the other hand, the one being suppressed by the Great Desolate Tablet was at the king level. Although the martial emperor had fallen after completing this feat, his strength had likely already reached a stage that could shock the entire world. Martial Emperor Law. It is difficult for an ordinary person to learn it. Anyone from the subsequent generations studying this martial art must not proclaim that you have obtained my inheritance if you fail to completely master it. That final low and powerful sentence was filled with pride. It was likely that this martial emperor was also an extremely proud person. Hence, he did not wish for his martial art to land in the hands of a mediocre person and ruin its radiance. That figure in the starry space had also reached the final part of his technique while this final sentence faded. In the end, a punch was unleashed. Immediately, the entire starry space began to rumble and shake. Stars from all over fell from the sky and crashed in the ground with a bang. Lin Dong let out a deep breath. His eyes faintly contained some shock. The name of this martial art was indeed worthy of its reputation. It was simply a waste for such a martial art to land in the hands of the Yang Zhong duo. The domain began to collapse the moment the stars fell. Lin Dong's surroundings changed, as he once again recovered his sight, and returned to the valley once again. This martial art is great. Lin Dong held the jade piece as he stared blankly at it for a moment. Finally, his lips parted into a grin. The martial art that the figure from earlier had displayed was already completely engraved into his mind. Its majestic aura was even stronger than the great desolate imprisoning heavenly hand that Lin Dong practiced. His gains this time were clearly far greater than expected. Martial Emperor Elder, it is likely that your martial art's name will no longer be dishonored now that it has landed in the hands of this young one. Lin Dong softly muttered to himself. The martial emperor was prideful when he spoke. Similarly, Lin Dong also had a pride that belonged to himself. He did not wish to compare himself to the martial emperor. However, now that this martial art had landed in his hands, he would definitely bring out the radiance it deserved. After Lin Dong's self-mutterings faded, he flipped his hand and kept the jade piece in his Qianquan bag. He descended from the air, and sat down beside the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond, as he quietly waited for Ling Qingshu to fully recuperate from her injuries. Half an hour swiftly passed by as he sat in silence. Lin Dong's eyebrows gradually knitted together as time flowed by. Finally, his eyes narrowed as they paused on the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond, which was still so calm that there was not the slightest ripple on its surface. It seemed to be a little too calm. Another half an hour passed by while Lin Dong was frowning. Soon after, he finally stood up. His expression was grave as he stared at the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond and mumbled, "Something is amiss." Lin Dong's eyes flickered. He hesitated for a moment as he stood beside the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond. Finally, he moved his body and directly leaped in. That splash sound as he entered the water echoed in the valley, and was unusually sweet to the ear. This video will end here.